I'm excited because we have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in studio. Feel free to share this out. Let us know what you have going on today. It's a beautiful day. We're going to share some positivity. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy, and I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center here in studio. Good morning, Dr. Chapa.
Good morning, Gardy. How are you this fine day?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, me as well. Looks like both of us got a little something going on our proboscises today.
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. I don't have a good story. I think one of my dogs might have scratched me, but I don't recall hitting myself in the nose. I don't recall watery eyes, that uncomfortable feeling, and but definitely I got definitely a little streak. It's funny. It makes me think when I first went onto the radio show way back when. I remember having like bandages on my nose because I had just had my very first trampoline injury in my life. And
I noticed you say first, meaning that there's been others.
No, that was the first and more or less the last.
That's good.
I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've had very few issues trampolining, as growing up as a kid and flipping, twisting, doing stupid things, jumping off houses onto trampolines, and you know what I mean. Like, I should have been probably injured a time or two, but again, thankful for prayer. Thankful for grandma's prayer and mom and dad's prayer and whoever was praying because it helped preserve my youthful stupidity. And but I flipped and landed on my face, and because I got cocky, I like closed my eyes in the air, and I'm like, why did you do that? Because I completely lost all aspects of where I was at, and but I remember being on the radio with my nose all busted up. But this time, I don't know what I did. I don't have a good excuse. I don't have a good story. What happened to you?
What happened to me is jiu-jitsu, just this morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I don't think, is it on this side?
It is.
All right, I'll show the people. So if you're watching on social media, then you'll be able to see. Otherwise,
mine's right down the middle. I mean, mine's right down the middle. You can't miss mine. So if you're curious on what happened before the show, it is safe to say that Gardy did not put me into a headlock, and I did not grab hold of his nose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're good, right?
We bumped noses. It was a battle of nose. It looks like you won.
Yeah. I don't know, dude.
You win, Dr. Chapa.
I have a lot more blood up there. Anyway, good morning. It's going to be a great show. Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. We love bringing you guys news about health and well-being and how to live better, be better, and stay better, one bite at a time. We believe that all life at that cellular level needs nourishment, at that cellular level needs stimulation, and we've got to make sure that we're giving the proper fuel sources, vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, in order to keep the ship afloat, to keep the ship repaired and regenerating at a fast pace. We want you to feel your best. We want you to live your best all the days of your life. We call that longevity. We want you to be full power, that vim, vigor, and vip, that energy and vitality that we all look for, long for, and desire. We want you to wake up fresh. We want you to go to bed, knowing that you're not completely run down, and we want you to sleep soundly through the night. Tell me, I can't get a little bit of a yes and an amen on that.
Amen. Yes.
Give me a little bit of a thumbs up if you're watching live, and make sure that when you tune in to our show, when you come back to the podcast and you listen to the previous past shows, make sure you share this information out with friends, family, and loved ones. Continually, I'm still shocked that people haven't quite figured out the power that they have through choice, and they need better education to make a better choice. Most people that come to see us, they don't do what they want to do. They do what they know how to do, and we've got to reframe their knowing so that they can choose better. They can choose wiser. They can choose long-term, not short-term. They can choose right over instant gratification and pleasure. And when they start making these choices and they get more connected with their body and they start realizing, oh, that symptom, could that be from a food choice I made on Saturday or Sunday night? Could that be from a party that we went to, a wedding we went to over the weekend? And then they wonder why they're sluggish the next 72 hours, or they have a headache, or they have some sort of symptom pattern. Maybe they get drippy down the back of the throat, they get fever, chills, they get that kind of a sick feeling. It might not be an like you're catching a cold. It may be that your body is just processing out some bugs that you fed that got out of hand, and your body's immune system's doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to clean house. Sometimes when we throw a party, we make a mess, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
And then no one really enjoys cleaning the kitchen or picking up the backyard, or, I'm speaking to, myself. I don't really want to do all those, the after part, right? But we have to. Somebody's got to. Your immune system is no different. Your immune system does what it knows how to do, and the more efficient it is, then you don't have those negative, nasty symptoms. The less efficient it is, sometimes the bugs get out of hand and you start getting symptoms like drippy down the back of the throat. You start getting a rash, you get a little fever, you get a little earache, you get a little eye booger, you get some sort of drainage out your nose. Those are signs and symptoms that your body is is out of balance and out of sorts, and we've got to get you back in check. A healthy, hardy immune system will do that. And so we always look to infection as a culprit, a sneaky, sly critter that is lurking in the shadows, opportunistically waiting to bust you in the chops, or you and I bust us in
the
our
nose.
proboscis.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of that? I had an English professor come in and say, all right, every one of you has a proboscis. I want you to describe your proboscis. And this is before we had access to instant internet. We couldn't just look it up on our phones. Heck, we didn't. I don't even know that we had maybe just gotten pagers at this time. And if anybody remembers pagers, give me a what up if you remember your pager. I remember my pager. But he would always talk about the proboscis, and that is your nose. And so we can look to symptom patterns and help to know where our body's breaking down. So if it's a skin issue, it's your body pushing toxins out the skin, or it's an infection coming out your skin. Infection. I had one of my mentors teach me. He says everything is an infection that has gone awry, that's gone out of hand. So what are you doing to boost, bolster, and strengthen your immune system so that it performs at its best? Well, at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, that's what we do. So if you've got health challenges, if you've got immune challenges, if you've got chronic illnesses, whether as a earache issue, sore throat issue, you're being threatened to have tonsillitis or tonsils removed, or adenoids removed, or inner ear tubes installed, guess what? There is an alternative. There is a different, better way. And I'm excited to help teach people how to do those things at our office. Our clinical staff, we train every week in talking through cases and making sure that everybody's on point, that we have a plan. And we give people alternatives to drugs and surgery. And we love the game. We love the work. We love the results that we can see when we can get parents and children and adults enrolled in the process. And there's the answer. It's a process. Health is a journey. Health is a process. It's not if you get sick, it's when you get sick. And it's when you get sick, how does your body respond? And when your body responds well, you live well. When your body doesn't respond well, you're laid up wishing you were well. And we want to make sure that, you can get control over your health, and it comes through food. It comes through hydration. It comes through repletion of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids. And so when we get into a care plan, we want to know, what have you done to try to fix your ails? Like people try all kinds of things. And what we find is many people have good intentions, but it comes back down to they just lack the knowing of what to do next. And so we want to give people new education. You don't know what you don't know, and you're only doing what you know how to do as opposed to what you want to do. So let us coach you and teach you and help you see how to reconnect with your body in a grand, glorious way. It just makes me excited because, this is the only tool body we've been given to navigate the terrain, isn't it?
Yes. As a nutritionist, I assume you would love to encounter and work with people who have felt like they've tried everything, who are actually putting in some work and maybe just need some guidance, it'd be easier to work with someone like that than opposed to somebody who hasn't even tried anything? Or
well, it's either way. It's interesting. That's a great. Sometimes people have tried everything. They come in a little like with their dukes up, because they've been burned, right? They've been down the hard knock road, and versus a person that's just happenstance was referred to us by another happy patron, and they come in with an expectation that they're already going to get well because so and so got fixed, so can I. You know what I mean? Yeah, they have a positive a launch pad. So but you know what it really comes down to? It comes down to attitude. When you have an attitude that you have something to learn and that you haven't figured it all out yet, and you lay down that I already know it all kind of attitude, whether, because some people have a know-it-all attitude that I've had patients come in referred by great, healthy, happy patients that have already gotten the result they're after, and they come in with an attitude that I'm not going to be able to fix them, and they want to arm wrestle the whole visit. And it's at that point that I just kind of metaphorically lay down my arm and say, I won't play like that. Like it's not worth it to me to fight and to wrestle. You're not ready. When you already know it all, I can't teach you anything is something that I just heard recently. And so you have to lay down what you know at the altar, if you will, and say, Lord, teach me something new today. I go to every seminar with an attitude as, Lord, I just need one nugget to make the seminar worth it. Just teach me one new thing and it's worth it. Because I have heard a lot of this stuff, right? When you've been down this road for 18 years, I've seen a lot of this stuff. God has given me new insights. I remember sitting in a seminar when I was a rookie, and I would sit on the third row, and I was listening to my favorite mentor speak, and there was probably, 150 docs in the room. And he's sitting there just talking about all these revelations that he sees in clinic and practice. And the mentor that I personally had next to me was the same thing, all these revelations. And he'd been out 7 years. He was he's 7 years ahead of me. So he had 7 years under his belt, that I didn't have. And I remember, bashfully, cautiously, nervously raising my hand and saying, Doc, how is it that you guys come up with new innovation with a client, with a patient? Because I don't get any of that. And he goes, how long have you been in practice? He could tell I had water pouring out of my ears. I was still fresh meat. I was still green as green could be. And I said, I'm barely a year, And he goes, and he used me as an example, not to make fun, but to make the point that there is something to time in the saddle. There is something to the hard knock of life, and he has had failures, and he has successes, and he has, extraordinary successes, and he's got, barely made it by successes, and he's got I've seen most darn near everything that he could ever walk in, and then yet still he shares a story of something he saw new last week in practice, and he'd been doing it 35 years at the time. And so it's interesting that I'm now almost 17 years into this, and I look at what God's beginning to show me in clinical practice, and I'm starting to see how I've stood on the shoulders of giants to be in the position that I'm in, to now be in a place where I'm thinking through cases very differently today than even 5 years ago, than 10 years ago. And this is why I tell patients this confidently. Everybody gets better at living well under two circumstances. You stick with it long enough, and you follow through the recommendations to the best of your ability. Because if you stick to the recommendations to the best of ability, means that you're coachable. If you're willing and unable, you just need coaching. I just need a willing spirit that wants to learn, wants to grow, and wants to find that nugget of truth for them, right? And then once we give them the education, once we give them that coaching, once we help them apply the practice, then they can take their willing and able, and they can accelerate into the promised land of health and vitality and well-being, where the habits that we teach in our 5 steps to health is natural. They're true keystone habits, like their ability to walk past the donut, their ability to walk past the ice cream, their ability to walk past the pizza is so much more easy because they have keystone habits in place, because they've been coached and applied that coaching day after day, month after month, year after year, and they get there, right? Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. Do things still happen? Yes. Why? Because they're in a degenerating earth suit. But do they have a better tool, and do they have a better resource for when life kind of kicks them in the pants or sweeps their legs out from under them or comes in like a swooshing wind and knocks them off their rocker? Things happen. I'm not saying that wellness is things never happening. Wellness is just, how does your body respond without drugs and surgery for the long haul to maximize that vitality? And so the nugget of truth that a person needs is literally just one nugget, one application of that nugget, and then they come back and we find a new nugget, and we keep building and building. We have patients that come in with really obscure disorders. We had a person come in with a nodule on their parathyroid, not their thyroid, their diesel, but their bone metabolism gland, and they want a solution for that. Well, I mean, how many people do you know walking around with nodules on their parathyroid gland? It's more common than you realize if you're in the field, but to the lay person, they're like, a para what? I think I heard him say thyroid, I think, and I've heard that is why, I can't lose weight. And, but no, we're talking about a completely different system. This is how your body ages bone-wise. This is osteoporosis. This is osteopenia. This is bone degeneration. And how your body manages calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. This is how your body mineralizes and remineralizes teeth and restructures, bones that we tear down. And as our body elongates, as we grow and mature as young people into young adults, into middle adults, into the elderly adults, as we go through the process, do we do it well? So it's just like what I've talked about with sleep. To shut down this body into a deep sleep state of an unconscious state or a subconscious state is a lot of nutrition to put the body into that space. And we just assume, that just happens. And that's why people have a hard time. They literally sit up for an hour unwinding when they could take some Neviton. They could take some mood juice. They could take some calcium magnesium powder. They could take some calcium lactate. They could do something in order to calm their body down to get that unwinding process to go faster so that they can get into bed sooner and get into that deep sleep state for restoration and recovery more efficiently so that they wake up feeling like $1 million the next day. Well, don't you want that for the long haul in your bones? Don't you want your bone health to survive your longevity? I don't want to be walking down the road at 85 and God gave me 125 years on the planet and my femur give out because I didn't do the proper upkeep in my 50s, in my 30s. There's things that we do have to do, and I think that's the education. We just kind of chalk it up to, the body will take care of it. We just take it for granted right up until it lets us, somebody said that you're invincible right up until you realize you're not. Right? Your bones are unbreakable right up until you realize they break.
They break, snap.
Yeah. And that's I don't like it, Yeah. But who does? That's called aging, and we have to work through that process. And so we've got, what do we do with nodules anywhere in the body? Nodules can show up anywhere. They don't just have to show up on one gland. And so we don't treat conditions. We don't diagnose disease. We're the weed killers at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. I like that. That's a new one. I've never said that before.
The weed killers?
We're the weed killers.
I like it.
We pluck weeds out of the garden so that they don't turn into something more. We get the weeds out that disrupt the soil nutrient base that grows healthy organs so that you don't have grub worms at the soil level, parasites, and exorbitant amounts of fungi and molds and things that are taking root in your system that are depleting your body of B vitamins and essential fatty acids and your key elemental nutrients and vitamins, minerals. If you don't have key vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids in place, then the body can't recover. The adrenal glands can't de-stress you. They can't assist you. Your brain power won't be robust and abundant. And we have people walking around aimlessly, not a clue that what they're drinking right now in hand, what they're eating every day, day in and day out, is having as negative impact on them as somebody going, oh, look at that person over there smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. We're quick to judge what we think is the poison, and we forget that we got poison we give our kids voluntarily and don't even think twice about it because we lack the education. We lack the knowledge base. That's why we've got to retrain people what the 4 deadly food additives are. We got to retrain people what the 4 food allergens are. I had a patient come in yesterday, baby fully breastfed, and baby's been constipated. They've been to several pediatricians. They can't figure it out. And this is the answer, Gardy. This is the answer. And this drives me crazy. You know what drives me crazy?
What?
Is what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's normal for you. That's normal for your baby to not poop every day. What? Are you mental? Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm not being ugly. Like, you got to think better than that. That's just like a faith preacher saying, "Oh, you got to take that by faith." Well, that just means they don't know how to defend whatever their topic they're defending because they haven't researched it deep enough. So if I am at a spot where you just got to trust me on that, walk away. You need to challenge somebody that says that. That's just normal for you. It's normal to not poop every day? No. You eat, you assimilate, and you excrete. And you excrete daily because the body never stops working. If this room was completely cleaned last night, okay?
And it wasn't. I just want to clarify
okay,
it was
okay.
not. Sorry.
We're just going to give benefit and credit that it was.
All right.
And let's say the trash was emptied. And let's say that there's no radio today and no one comes in this room today. Tomorrow, when we come into the studio, the trash would still be
empty.
Yeah, that's right. Why? Because no work was done. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The minute work is done, the body generates waste. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The minute we do stuff in this room, paper gets thrown in there, our cans of whatever get thrown in there, our toothpicks get thrown in there, our napkins, our forks, our whatever gets thrown in there. Trash is generated. And so where there is work done, trash is generated. When does your body ever stop working?
Whenever you die one day.
One day down the road, hopefully. Not today. Right? Praise the Lord. So if this little guy was, his body's growing and developing, which neurologically they have proven that infants grow astronomically, right? I mean, they go from like a foot, some size of your hand to your forearm, into these vessels, and they get bigger and longer, and there's work being done constantly. So waste is always generated. It's just like somebody that's fasting that comes in and says, "Oh, it's okay, I'm not pooping every day because I'm fasting." No, that's not how it works. Work is being done, therefore waste is being generated, therefore excretion must take place. You sweat it out, pee it out, poop it out, breathe it out. And that's good news because you don't want to store toxins in the tissues. And so I had to kindly, re-educate. Hey, listen, I don't want you to take offense to this, but if the baby's 100% breastfed, and the body is a chemistry project, the problem is in the food, and therefore the problem was upstream in what mom was eating. So we had to change mom's diet. We had to give her some new ideas. We had to re-educate her to the 4 deadly food additives. We had to re-educate her to the 4 most common food allergens. And guess what? We're going to see a miraculous change. You're going to see colic go away. You're going to see growth and development transpire in a better way. You're going to see no rashes, no colds, no earaches, no throat issues, because we're going to make a change. Now, you could change the game and put the poisons back in and get the result of negativity, but you don't have to. It comes down to the fundamentals of it's your life, it's your health, it's your choice. It's your choice. And that's what we help people understand, is that you need new education in order to make better choices with that new education in order to get a different result. We don't want to follow that old mantra of insanity. What is that? You know the formula. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting what, Gardy?
A different result.
Why would people do that?
Yeah. And that kind of leads, this is a question, and it's from Renee. She said, this is off subject, but I had a stroke recently. What would you recommend to keep this from happening again? Is there something that you can do?
Absolutely. Okay. Strokes are obviously, hopefully, if you're typing and participating in our live show today, hey, I'm so thankful for doing that. That you had a minimal stroke. You had, sounds like full recovery, hopefully, to some degree. Probably a few limitations here and there that you probably are very aware of, but to the naked eye or us that don't know you well, you're probably in a better space. But mobility. The worst thing we could ever do for a stroke patient is to restrict their mobility, their movement. And a lot of times we put them in a hospital room, hospital bed, and we just leave them there. We do a little bit of rehab and stuff like that. But I'm talking, listen, stroke, you almost have to go back to the basics of neural development. You've got to do cross-crawl pattern where you're, opposite extremities are moving simultaneously. You do it on your back. You do it on all fours. You do it on the couch. You do it in your lounge chair. You do it as I was just sitting demonstrating. Left leg up, right leg up. Right arm up, left arm up, right leg up. And I cross-crawl like I'm pretending like I'm crawling. And then you can do it on the posterior as well. So I can still move, and I can pull my left leg back and activate, my arm. You want to do mobility. You want to move your fingers. You want to move your wrist. You want to move your ankles and feet. You want to maximize joint articulations everywhere. Nikolai Amosov is a 95-year-old cardiologist that was still doing cardiovascular surgery, and he says that his longevity and vitality to do such was due to joint mobility. The articulations where the joints butt together and they come together in the wrist and the hand and the ankles and the feet. There's tons of joints right here. Just moving this, I get like 8 articulations happening. And so making circles inside and out, opening the hands this way, doing them inside and outside. I know it sounds elementary, but when you have a stroke, you have to go to the basics. You got to go back to the building blocks. Frankly, even if you're an extreme athlete, you need to go to these basics from time to time to rehab and reset and recalibrate your nervous system. Don't we take our car in for a little bit of an alignment? We don't throw the whole car out just because it pulls to the left, right?
Right.
We go get that baby aligned. Sometimes I'm doing some stuff right now at the gym. Everybody's heard of parkour, where you do all those crazy jumping things. I'm not going to do anything nutty like that.
Not anymore since the trampoline.
Yeah. I wised up.
Right.
I'm bulletproof right up until I wasn't. Right. And so I learned. It doesn't mean I can't play a little bit. And it's in a controlled environment. But one of the things that I learned is I have a hard time jumping off one foot, landing on one foot, and then leaping off that same foot again, like right foot, 3 different jumps, and then jumping off something like 12 inches and then landing back on one foot. Like it sounds complicated, maybe. It's not. It's just one, continuous jump. So what I had to do is I had to lower the gradient neurologically. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. It's that I had to recalibrate, because I can see my 12-year-old son doing it. I can see my 22-year-old friend doing it. I was struggling to see myself doing it because my body wouldn't do it. My mind said I could, but my body wouldn't line up. It was out of alignment. So I went to a 6-inch, and I would practice 1 foot off, 1 foot back up in reverse, 1 foot off, 1 foot back up in reverse. I would then do ankle mobility, left and inside, outside, making little joint mobility circles. And this would upregulate cerebellar activity on the same side that I was making the circles. That would do a crossover into the left cortex of my brain and make my brain light up. I was calibrating, I was realigning my nervous system with what my brain said I could do and my body wasn't able to do yet. It's a retraining. And so with a stroke, you have to be willing to do that. First and foremost, daily rehabbing yourself. You can't wait on Tuesday to go to the rehab center. You can't wait on Friday. You got to do it every day and often throughout the day. If you were somebody, and I'm sorry to make this a long, but I mean, there's just a lot to this. It's never as simple always when we're dealing with a stroke. Somebody that was like truly like bowed up, like their system like malfunctioned, neurological glitch, and they're like truly dysfunctional in bed. Their loved ones need to get in there and mobilize the joints, pull those extremities apart. Don't let them get stagnant. You know, one of the things, I would love to write a little, blurb to my family or make videos to my family. If ever this happened to me, please, for the love of Pete, honor me by this. Rotating my wrist, rotating my ankles as often as, 500 reps in the morning, 500 reps at lunch, 500 reps at dinner. I mean, and I'm talking just fingers, wrist, hands, and feet, Gardy. Like it could be that powerful of a restoration. Articulation. Then is there more we could do? Of course there is. But we don't want to spend the whole show answering one question. We want to try to get to as many questions as possible.
They did ask, is there supplements that you could take as well?
I knew it was coming. That's where I was going. And so what could we do biochemically? Biochemically, nutritionally, what could we do? Well, that's going to be we use pineal, pituitary, endocrine upregulation, brain activation. So we would use things, neurotransmitter support, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine. We would come in and upregulate your nervous system through the brain. We'd put ribonucleic acid in there. We would put a product I love called Neuroplex that's got blood-derived neurotrophic factors in it that stimulate development of tissue to be restored quickly. We would use fish oils. We would whether tuna omega, DHA. You always think DHA for the brain, and so we use a sardine-based DHA product, very rich in omega-3s and 9s. We would de-inflame the brain as much as possible. We would also put in anti-inflammatory vitamins like vitamin C. Now I would not use a ascorbic acid or a bioflavonoid only vitamin C. It would be a food grade vitamin C. Food grade? What is that? Well, most people, and I would say more than 98% of the marketed vitamin C on the shelf today is ascorbic acid or bioflavonoid. It's just a factor. It's a piece. It's a little snippet of what God intended for you to have, and we would use a full complex C that is from food, alfalfa and rutin and different citrus rinds and things like that. We have these things ground up already so that your body can access these food grade C's that give you the full complex, the vitamins P, K, J, tyrosinase, cofactors, bioflavonoids, ascorbic acid, the whole works. Everything God intended for you in a package. Here it is. Right? And we would come in with make sure that the vitamin D levels are stable and balanced so that your immunity in your brain is constantly cleaning up any short-circuiting from the inflammatory process that caused the stroke in the first place. We want to make sure that scar tissue that was there or after the stroke is able to be cleaned up more effectively. So we would come in with those what we call a sequential immune upregulation protocol, where we would actually feed your body. Now I know you're like, okay, I lost. I don't know where to go from here. That's why we coach you. You can't expect to know everything, but we would build something that you could manage and that you could tolerate and help you navigate the next healthy, logical step. We would help you pull out inflammatory foods. We would help you know how much water you needed to consume. We would make sure and ensure that your body's basic excretion functions are in check so that you're not circulating around toxins in your body and allowing infections to take root and to take over. That is what we're after, is to clean up the system. Feed the system. Stimulate the system. Does that make sense? So we clean, we feed, we stimulate. There's your answer. The long haul back around the turn is we clean, we feed, and we stimulate the system. And then your road to recovery with a stroke is way better. It's on the way upward, goodward, and Godward, and that's exciting. So I didn't know if there's any more. Is that it?
No, my mic turned off. Yeah, that was it. That was the follow. The follow-up was with the supplements. So.
You know, and I get really excited is the opportunity to go into patient care. I mean, I hope that when somebody asks me a question and I give them a little bit more than they asked for, it's just because I just want the better a person understands what is going on in their body. They have an opportunity at that point to appreciate there is a layer of complexity that calls for coaching. I would not expect to be a good athlete if I didn't have a good coach. I wouldn't expect to be good at what I've accomplished in my career without good coaches and mentors. And still today, have people that are pouring into my life. And still have, people that I trust that teach me how to evolve in practice and evolve my business mind and evolve my thinking, right? Better thinking creates better thinking. But the only way you get better thinking as a better result is to put new knowledge in from people that, God has put across your path, laborers and co-laborers that you have prayed for and have trusted to allow to speak into your life. I'm not going to let anybody speak into my life. I'm not going to cast pearls before swine.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always test the spirits. You can drop a nugget on somebody and see how they take it. If they kick it into the sewer, guess what? Don't give them another nugget.
I think, same thing with you. If someone's not going to do or respect, what you say or your time, or, why would you keep trying to give them that information if it's not going to do any good?
Yeah,
right?
And that's true. And we've had discussions around our square table. When do you let a patient go? When is, or do you? Right?
Yeah.
I firmly believe in the try process. I have so many stories and so many experiences and so many good, healthy results from cases that have been everywhere, like you mentioned earlier in the show, and have not gotten the result they were after. And I got a result because I was willing to try. I was willing to do what nobody else was willing to do. I was willing to step outside my comfort zone and risk. Those who risk big, win big. And you go, well, these are people's lives. No. You got to understand. My risking, I'm feeding people. Heaven forbid. My favorite story is I had an oncologist tell one of my patients they couldn't take one of my supplements because it had mushrooms in it, right? I'm like, okay, so do you have a sheet that they gave you with all the foods that they told you couldn't eat? And they go, no, they don't talk to me about food. I said, okay. They've never talked to you about food, but all of a sudden they're going to pick on one ingredient that has, we're going to throw the baby out the bathwater. This stuff's got, 1,000 nutrients in it, 200 phytonutrients and phytochemicals in it, and we're going to pick on one ingredient. I mean, come on. How about you pick up the phone, doc, and give me a call? Let's talk through how to be adjunctively caregivers for this person. Let's work together as a team. You see, I tell patients that are under cancer care or multiple sclerosis or some sort of autoimmune disorder, situation. I tell them, I would like to offer you knowledge to allow me to be a spokesman on your dream team. Because if I had, a disease in my body that I was unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with, even if I was comfortable with it and it was in my body, I would surround myself with a dream team. I would surround myself with people that are smarter than I, that could help me think through and bounce ideas. I had this one cancer patient come in, and I told him, because, I mean, he's just this engineer type. He's very smart, asks bunches of great questions. He's very, very, he researches. He's not just sitting on the sideline, just being told. And I remember telling him, because he had, some close confidants tell him, I don't know if you should be doing what Dr. Chapa's recommending, da-da-da-da-da. But when this guy would come, he would come and just talk it out. These are what these people are saying. It made sense listening to their perspective, but I wanted to give you a chance to speak because you've proven yourself to me to be a good, healthy sounding board, even if I choose not to use your knowledge, right? He values the sounding board. Like, you can't rationalize your own thinking in your own head. You've got to get it out on paper. You've got to get it out into a conversation, and you've got to allow different perspectives and different people's experiences to help you navigate that story. Because cancer's scary. Autoimmunity is scary. Multiple sclerosis is scary. Chronic fatigue is scary. Belly pain, colic, acid reflux, these things are painful and discomforting and unnecessary. And if you don't allow people to speak into the life, that's not good. And then if you just listen to one voice because society has pedestaled that person, and then we allow that person to completely deregulate any other knowledge base, be careful. That's not, remember the old saying, there's no I in
team.
How did you know that so fast? Because it's ingrained in you.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to build a dream team that surrounds you. And he survived and beat cancer. He's doing fantastic. He looks great. His recovery's great. He's on his way upward, onward, goodward, and Godward. He's doing great things. And he feels great. He feels as good as he ever has, if not even a little better. And we were able to adjunctively work alongside, even though the docs told him, don't do what that guy's telling you to do. Instead, he brought me information. We talked it out. We built a care plan, and we kept working. And I said, there was a time in my youthful career where I was afraid of cancer. There was a time where I was afraid of autoimmunity. There was a time that I wasn't sure of my footing, but I would take these cases and I would go to my round tables. I'd go to these seminars. I would ask the docs in class, on the side fires of class. I'd be scrambling for notes and notes and notes, trying to find an answer. And guess what? They got better. They improved. They went on. We empowered their departure. We allowed them to live vibrantly the days left on this planet. It was a win. And when you're willing as a clinician to put yourself into that space with a patient and make yourself vulnerable and feed them, That's all we're doing, Gardy. Because most people are treated with pharmaceutics and disease-causing things that are loaded with side effects and loaded with contraindications that are caused by malnutrition. So I'm just over here tilling the land. I'm over here refertilizing the soil. I'm over here helping the crops, aka your organs, replenish themselves more faster than they are degenerating. And so, because some of these advanced diseases, it's just the scales tipped. You're degenerating faster, accelerated aging faster than your design. If I can slow that down, it's not that I can stop it, right? We're all aging. We're all degenerating. It's the speed at which we degenerate that we maximize the lifespan. And that's cool. That's exciting, and that's wellness.
One thing I want to say is I think the difference is the tribe approach. You talk about the doctors and, hey, give me a call. Like, you want to put that team together, and you've assembled a team there and are, that's what you would want as a patient, and that's what you offer as a clinician. Again, here's a comment that came in. This is from Jeanette. She said, my husband finished chemo, but will start radiation therapy on Thursday. Anything we can do to support him through this?
Yes. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that the liver pathways are open and clear. We use a beef liver fat for that. It's actually a cool pill, a tablet product you use called Antranex. And all it does is act it's what we call in functional medicine a drainage remedy. Because when we're exposed to chemo, going into radiation, there's a buildup, and so this would be equivalent to if there's a lot of if there's a big ant pile, and you go and pour poison on it today, it isn't dead tomorrow. It takes a few days, right? It's got to drain off. If there's a flood in the street today, it's going to take several hours, assuming the drainage setups are correct, to drain off. Now, if the flood doesn't drain off, that means that there is a congestion in the line. The liver is typically where that is in the chemo radiation stage. And so we want to make sure that the liver we're not necessarily detoxing, so you got to get that word out of your head in this case. We are going to nourish. One of my favorite supportive herbs for liver is silymarin or milk thistle. So we use a product called Milk Thistle Forte, and it is the most liver rejuvenating herb. And it is not a liver detoxifier. I'm sure you can take an amount of milk thistle, aka silymarin, in order to create a layer of detox. But at the doses that I'm talking about, we're talking therapeutic, just feeding, nourishing, protecting the liver from chemical burn. Because a lot of what chemo is and radiation is it's basically like spraying a flame retardant, a massive chemical that's very acidic to the cancer and to the body. It kills everything. We've got to make sure that tissues that are touched, healthy tissues that are being touched by this chemical or radiation, isn't burned to a point of scarring or burned to a point of dysfunction. And so we want to make sure that the liver is hardy. I would encourage, you come on in and let's build a protocol around how to manage the radiation that's coming and maximize the drainage that is necessary post-chemo. I'm not going to prevent the body from getting what it needs from the chemo or from the radiation. Listen, if I had a tool in my office that could truly counteract chemo and radiation, think about that. I would have something more powerful than chemo and radiation? Come on. I would have more power than drugs? Come on. I mean, I'm just a little old nutritionist over here, right? I mean, I'm talking food, guys. There's nothing in my arsenal that's going to be contraindicated when I build it appropriately that's going to help your liver be refed. It's like if you went to the gym this morning and you did a leg workout with me, and then we went and had our blood test done, and we measured high-sensitive C-reactive protein, which is a massive inflammation marker, typically cardiovascular marker, but it's really just an inflammatory fire marker, high-sensitive CRP. We would see our numbers tomorrow be above 10 because we would have beat the tar out of our muscles so much in that hour that CRP would be running rampant, and the doctors would freak out and think that we need to go have a nuclear stress test today, enroll us in the hospital care plan today, not asking us any questions about what we ate or what we did or if there's anything we could have done to create that kind of injury. And the only reason I know, Gardy, is because I've done it. I was dumb, and I went and did a leg workout, and I went and had my blood done that same morning. I remember it was a Friday morning. I was so excited because I was on this experimental program over here, not thinking about my normal routine here, and the blood work came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Yeah. I'm dying. You know what I mean? And then I go, wait a second. No, what did I do? And what can I, how do I get forward? I'm like, okay, hang on. Let's wait a week. Let's not do leg day. Let's actually take Sunday off. We'll do a light routine, and then we'll go in Monday morning and get her done again and see what it does. Literally a week later, my CRP went from 11 down to 0.38. Okay? It needs to be less than 1. It needs to be less than 0.7. 0.7 is like really good. I was at 0.38. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like in a week? That's impossible. Well, I wasn't inflamed to begin with. I just inflamed myself that day. So if we were to look at these numbers, we would see that these numbers, in this case, would be elevated because they just went through a major trauma, chemo.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to go through another major trauma, radiation. How do we support that? We want to get inside and be co-partnering team players, dream team members on the care plan, and help build a program that allows the chemo and radiation to do their job most effectively, and be making sure that we're rebuilding and repairing and recovering the tissues that need to be restored as fast as possible. Isn't that good news?
It is good news.
And that is how it should be played. This idea that we only do chemo, we only do radiation, that's old news, man. If you're still playing in that game, you're selling yourself short on the possibilities of doing supportive care. Because even going through the therapy care, the treatment care, the focused care that they're applying, we can come alongside and serve greatly, adjunctively, and powerfully to maximize what they're doing. Does that make sense?
It does. Perfect sense.
And so I try to encourage people to see from that angle, right? And so we would come in and make sure that the bowels are moving, the lungs are clear, the lymphatics are open, the liver's working, and we would help build a program. We would use, plants and herbs and foods that are nourishing to the tissues, not detoxifying, but strengthening and protective. It's a great segue into having a healthy, strong immune system, because you would carry that same my mentality into post-chemo radiation care. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about chemo and radiation as floodwaters coming up, you want to make sure that post-therapy, you've got healthy drainage in place, that you have healthy elimination of all that excess that you don't need anymore circulating around, poisoning your tissues. And a lot of that stuff gets locked away in fat cells, brain cells, and joint cells. And you wonder why your joints hurt, body hurts, can't lose weight anymore, can't think straight anymore going forward. Your body has been poisoned, essentially. That is what it's a controlled poisoning, is chemo and radiation. And we want to come in and modulate that. We want to help a body navigate, okay, I know I just got it handed to me on the mat. What do I do now? How do I get the floodwaters to recede? How do I get the regeneration? Remember, we clean, we feed, and then we see the restoration occur. And that is, any care plan. It doesn't even have to be extreme. If you've been on antibiotics, that blew up your gut. We have to come in and clean up the dysbiosis, the imbalance in good and bad bacteria. We've got to feed. We have to reseed, refeed, condition the bowel through vitamins, minerals, vitamin A, for example, vitamin D, for example, essential fatty acids, for example, some of the things we've talked about time and time again. There's a lot of overlap in a lot of these tissues, right? So that's kind of nice. It's not like you've got to have a bazillion different things. It's the same thing. It's just dose concentrated, and we want to be very focused post-antibiotics. We want to be very focused post-steroid. We want to be very focused post, drug that has been, given to you. But let's bring it back even still. What if you got into an inflammatory food, one of the 4 deadly food additives, one of the 4 most common food allergens, and it inflamed your tissues? Well, don't you want a tool and a remedy for that too? When people go out and love on dairy and they get all into the ice cream and the cheese and the junk food like that, I said, anytime you do that, you got to take AF beta food to decongest all the congestion from the mucus. You got to take Thymex to roto-root and upregulate your immune system and your lymphatics, and Spanish radish to push trash through your lymphatics. Well, actually, I would even probably just say, I normally say AF beta food, Thymex, and Cataplex AC, because we've got to restore the gut from inflammation from the dairy rolling across those membranes and tearing it up. We got to create a healthy terrain for the excretion of toxins that we talked about in the very beginning of the show that need to be excreted daily, multiple times a day. I'm getting fired up, Gardy.
You seem fired up.
Boy, I tell you. I mean, this is what people need to know. They need to know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, bring an excitement to health. I want to bring a vim, vigor, and vip to knowledge is power, and their ability to make these decisions for themselves. Your life, your health, your choice.
One quick question, reminder, what are the 4 most deadly food additives or food?
Yeah, wheat, dairy, corn, and soy.
Avoid those and you'll be doing a big service to your body.
Yep, those are the food allergens. And then MSG, monosodium glutamate, high fructose corn syrup. Oof, got to make sure that one's gone. Partially hydrogenated oils and artificial sugars are your 4 deadly food additives. So, yeah, it's great. And, I continually am reminded that people need more and more the education, the reminders, the daily inputs so that they can continue to learn and grow. That's why we have our podcast. That's why we want you to go back and listen to the show. That's why we want you to share this with your friends, family, loved ones. Gardy, would you kindly tell our listeners how they can subscribe and share this great content?
Yeah, so you can go back and listen to this episode and probably about 100+ other ones that are on Apple Podcasts, and they're also on Spotify. You can subscribe and you'll be notified every time one comes up. So even if you miss the video, you miss it on the radio, then you'll be able to go back and listen. So you can search Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. You can search Dr. Chapa, search Just Live Well. You can search a lot of different things and it'll pop up, but you'll see Dr. Chapa's logo. They're located in Lake City. I suggest that you stop by, go check out what they have, and it will add some benefit to your life. I guarantee it.
All right. Well, man, I know we're at the end of our hour. We're at the end of our time together. But at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, be reminded, we always have updated classes every month. We have a class on mental health. We have our MacroFix class on brain chemistry support through healthy fats. We encourage you to tune into those shows, either through Zoom or live in-house. We encourage you to come and experience what we're doing with our MacroFix and teaching you how to eat these foods that you're not familiar with and how to see how easy it is to get the healthy fat ratios right so that your brain chemistry and inflammatory response places are in check and that your body performs better. At the mental health class, we're going to be sharing how your brain breaks down under emotional stresses and what you can do to restore that. And we'll have those, updated in the time slots below. And we just want to make sure that you have access to those, programs that we do. We're always doing outreach at Living Well. We always are educating people in-house, one-to-many, on the show, radio here at KHEA. And we are just excited that we have a voice, and we are making sure that we are maximizing that voice. We know that to much is given, much is required. To much is given, much is asked. And God has given me a lot. He's given me an abundance of knowledge and resource to share with my listeners, to people that do trust Gardy, the tribe at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. I'm proud of the clinical team that the Lord has put together and is building through our office. I'm proud of the staff that serves the patients day in and day out. Couldn't do it without them. And it's amazing. The families, we built this practice with family first, that we built this practice that takes care of its people. And we want people to live well, be well, and stay well, day in, day out, forever and ever, all the days of their life. Can I say it any different? Gardy, I don't know. I just don't know. And I just get excited, and I want you all to grab hold of it, and I want you to leverage it, and I want you to come back to it. Even if you fell off, even if you feel, shame, even if you feel guilt because you think you're going to get chastised for making bad choices. Come on, man. We're human. I mean, that's why we came into the world making bad choices. You know what I mean? And we just want new nuggets of information. Let's not be the swine. Let's take the pearls. Let's wear them with pride. Let's be thankful that God gave them to us, and let's leverage them for our benefit and pass them down. Teach the youth. Teach our offspring how to live better, be better, stay better. They want to learn. They want to learn. They need to learn this stuff because their health depends on it. And they are only going to do what you're willing to show them. The people never do what they want to do. They just do what they know how to. So let's teach them a better way and so they can get a better result. And so with that, I just say farewell and till next time.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.